Welcome to Best in Class. I'm AJ Madden here with a very special guest who I'm honored to be here with and to speak to today. John Spence is recognized as one of the world's top business thought leaders and leadership development experts and was named by the American Management Association as one of America's top 50 leaders to watch, along with Sergey Brin and Larry Page of Google and Jeff Bezos of Amazon. His client list includes organizations such as Microsoft, Apple, IBM, GE, Qualcomm, Coca-Cola, Merrill Lynch, Allstate, and dozens of other Fortune 500 companies. As an executive coach, trainer, and keynote speaker to organizations worldwide, from startups to the Fortune 10, John is dedicated to helping people and businesses be more successful by making the very complex awesomely simple. John is a voracious learner and consumes a minimum of 100 business books, countless articles, and blogs every year. He is a guest lecturer at more than 90 colleges and universities, including MIT, Stanford, Cornell, and the Wharton School of Business. John, thanks so much for being here today.
My honor. It's my pleasure. We need a shorter intro, though. That's a lot of stuff.
That I could go on more. I actually shrunk that down in terms of your accomplishments. I wanted to get it in there so that our great listeners have an idea of who they're about to learn from today. A thought leader and one of the most impressive people I've ever read and talked to. And years ago, I had reached out to you, and it was several years ago, and I was just getting started in this. And you spent several hours just teaching me and advising me and sharing your best practices. And I look back on my notes, recently, and I thought, wow, all those things John told me to do were so valuable, and I did them, and I was able to have, the success. And you really, you didn't have to do it, but you set my career on a much better path because of it. And you talk about love and service, and it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to live it. And you didn't know me at all. It was just I reached out randomly. You were someone I respected and admired. And you took those 2 hours to set me on a better path. So I want to say thank you. That's the type of person we're talking to today. Also, John wrote one of my favorite business books of all time, Awesomely Simple. It's maybe about 10 years old, and I go over it, almost every year, and it's more valuable than ever. It's one of those books that you can highlight literally every single page you can highlight. And it's, again, better than ever 10 years later. So thank you for being who you are, and thank you for being here, John.
You're far too kind. And I really appreciate the kind words you said. And I'm glad what we covered years ago was helpful to you.
You have no idea. Yeah, I can't overstate it. Let's see. So on Best in Class, we talk about, excellence and service. Those are the two key variables of best in class. That's my definition. 100% commitment to excellence and service in everything you do. It's about the habits, mindsets, and strategies of best in class. John, you are one of the best in the world at what you do. And I'd love to learn about 3 key mindsets that have helped you become best in class. What are some 3 or, as many as you want to give, the mindsets that helped you get to where you're at in terms of success?
There are 3 solid ones. First one is, I believe that I can learn pretty much anything I need to learn, short of brain surgery, which even I guess I could learn if I took long enough. But if I just study something long enough, talk to the right people, constantly fill my brain with stuff, I think I can learn pretty much anything I need to learn. Number 2, I believe that I can overcome any obstacle, that no matter how challenging things are, I can put my head down and work my way through it. And then the third thing, which was really a tough one for me, AJ, was that I can be among the best in the world at what I do. That was a really, really high bar earlier in my career. But now that I've achieved it, I went, wow, I guess I am okay at what I do. I spent 30 years working on it. So those are the 3. I can learn what I need to learn. I can overcome any obstacle. And I actually can be among the best in the world at what I do.
Okay. I'll be taking notes after this episode myself, and anyone who's listening, get a pen and paper out and listen to it again, because you're about to get a lot of gold in our, the first answer there. There's so many important things there. In terms of seeing yourself as you could be one of the best in the world, what was the tipping point for you?
The tipping point is when I started winning awards, top 100, top 50, top Thinkers 50, which is probably the most prestigious business award you can possibly find. I got shortlisted number 8 in the world. So I've probably, and this is embarrassing, but I've probably won 20 or 30 top 100 in the world at things I do over the course of years. Actually, the vision of our company is for me to be named among the top 100 in the world at what I do at least once a year. And that's not ego. That's a reflection of doing great work. I've never tried to win an award. And when I do, I just think that this means I'm working hard. This means I'm doing good work. This means I'm adding value. So the idea to continue to try to win them is just pushing me to continue to try to do world-class work.
Okay. So it was a combination of getting recognized and then setting the goal to continue that standard of excellence year after year, setting that goal. And the goal is, again, as I understand it, not to, accomplish things and beat other people. It's about consistently delivering excellence to the clients and to the market.
I've never, ever considered beating other people. That doesn't mean anything to me at all. And the awards are nice, but they're not, don't stroke my ego. Like I said, the only thing it is a reflection that me and the people in my company are doing truly world-class work.
Oh, beautiful. Your first answer in terms of I can learn anything, extremely powerful. What a great mindset to have in any field. Actually leads me into the next question. What are the 3 key daily habits or habits overall? For example, reading 100 books a year. Yeah. Okay. I believe when you wrote Awesomely Simple, it was around 2,000 books, somewhere in there. Don't quote me on that. Maybe around there. Yeah. And where are you at now currently in terms of number of books read?
A little over 3,000. Little over 3,000. And this is, you see this bookcase, those are 2. I have 11 more like that in the office, and an awful lot of audiobooks and books on my iPad and things like that. But remember, AJ, like you and me, this is part of my job. I mean, a lot of, wow, you read so much. Well, I dedicate 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, to reading, studying, learning, doing everything I can through multiple venues to try to bring in good information that I can help my clients with.
Okay. Would you say, in terms of top 3, or just the habits that led you to becoming so successful, becoming this top thought leader, the top of your field, the Mount Rushmore of our field, coaching, consulting, expertise in business and leadership? What were the key habits that got you there?
Well, the first one we just chatted about is reading. And it's not just reading, it's audiobooks, YouTube, blogs, anything that, articles from magazines. I'm constantly looking anywhere I can in my area of expertise. I just turned 59 this year. And when I turned 58, I came up with a phrase. I now realize I know almost nothing about almost nothing and nothing about almost everything else. So I've got a tiny area of expertise that I focus on, but I go really deep there. So learning, learning. Number 2 is writing. One of the things that makes you a quote unquote thought leader, not happy about, no, don't love that term, is a teachable point of view, a unique point of view, unique research, unique frameworks, things like that. So, and I read a great quote one time that said, I don't know what I think until I say it or write it. So the act of me sitting down and working through writing speeches or writing articles or writing books really helps clarify my thinking and allows me to take all the stuff I'm studying it, simplify it, and then present it in a way that it makes sense to me. And then the last thing is connecting with people all over the world, people like you and other people that are really good at what they do. I set a meeting. I've got about 15 people around the world that I set a meeting with them every month, just clockwork. Somebody asked me a great question. What was great about the pandemic? In 2019, I traveled 217 days worldwide. 2020, I did a 1-hour drive to a client and a 1 hour back in the entire year. Not a single hotel night room. What I realized was, now that I had all this extra time, I could enrich, I could add to and enrich the relationships I had with people around the world. So kind of like you and I are doing today, I reached out to people that I looked up to, admired, and said, can we get on the phone and will you teach me stuff? So those are three things: reading, writing, and connecting with really, really, really bright people.
Okay. Okay. So it's a continuous improvement mindset in terms of learning and just never ending and clarifying your thoughts in terms of writing. And again, this applies to any field, what you're talking about here, right? Making the, simplifying things down and then reaching out to people you respect and admire. What advice would you give to people in terms of reaching out to people that they respect and admire that they'd love to have as a mentor or trusted advisor? How would you suggest that our listeners do that?
The thing that I've done is I study them very carefully. If they're an author, I read their books, I look at their LinkedIn profile, I look at all their social media, and then I try to find something that aligns with what I know and send them a very honest, genuine, carefully thought out message showing that I know I respect their work, I've studied their work, and it aligns with something I'm learning or trying to get better at, and ask them. And typically I ask them, can we get on the phone for an hour? And I've got some questions I like to ask you. I'm exceedingly respectful. I do not waste their time. And I usually spend 4 or 5 hours getting ready for that 1 hour call to make sure that I'm spot on, dead, ready to go. And I'd say 80% of the people say, let's keep making phone calls. And I'm lucky now I get them coming the other way. Like you and other people call me and say, hey, John, yeah, I've been following you for years. Would it be possible to get on the phone with you?
I see. Okay. Okay. Now, in terms of what's been the value to you in terms of these mentors over the years, in terms of, maybe a shortcut to success or expediting your success? What type of value would you place on these mentorship relationships, these cold calls you're making?
Oh, from the folks I'm talking to now and stuff, I'm reaching out to experts to learn what are the top things they've learned. How do they see their field? What are they studying? Who are they reading? Who are they talking to? What's their newest thinking? I want to, because that's what they're most excited about. And that's what I'm most excited about is what's the newest stuff you're learning, or what's the most important things you've learned. I pretty much ask everybody, what are the top 3 books you could recommend? Which I looked on your website. I appreciate my books on there. But I'm constantly trying to find out what's the newest, coolest, what are you seeing in the marketplace? What are you learning? What are the people you're working with doing? So I can stay right there on the very edge of what's going on. Okay.
Okay. Again, to the listeners, rewind that one and take notes, that whole answer, because he just gave you the blueprint, the formula, right? How to reach out to mentors, how to think about it, how to set it up, how to be a good student, the right questions to ask. And this applies to any field or discipline in life, right? Anything. And that blueprint right there is worth its weight in gold. Times 10. Now, in terms of your top books, and this is a question I was really looking forward to asking, in different categories, just like you ask the people that you reach out to in terms of what are your top 3 books. Would you mind sharing your top 3 books in a few categories?
Okay. Let's see. So let's do like a personal development, self-help. Number 1 of all books I've read would be Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Okay. I've probably read that 50 times. It sits on my bed. Well, there's 3. I'll give you 3 that sit next to my bed. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, A Strategy for Daily Living by Ari Kev. He was a psychiatrist, and one of his clients said, I just don't have time to do all this. Could you just give me a list for how to live a better life? And he wrote it out. It's really good. And then 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I love that book and the mental models he teaches in that book. Let's look at leadership for a second. The number 1 book would be The Truth About Leadership by Kouzes and Posner. They wrote the Leadership Challenge, world famous book. This one's not as much data in it. It's a little cleaner, easier to learn. I just read a new book. I was talking to a friend at breakfast this morning, one of the people I connect with all the time. And I just read a book by General William McRaven, or Admiral William McRaven, called Wisdom of the Bullfrog. And Bullfrog is the name they have for the longest serving active duty Navy SEAL. And he was that 44 years or something like that. He's since retired. but it's all about his wisdom, and it uses words that I don't think I hear enough in business: duty, honor, integrity. But he also talks about caring, empathy, and love, which is not things you would normally expect an admiral or a Navy SEAL to talk about. But that book really, really was important to me. What other genres would you want to? I mean, those are the best ones. Obviously I've read a few, so I can give you some quite a few recommendations.
Sure. It's the categories I had written down. You got the first two. One was personal development. The other one was leadership. How about sales? Best sales books, top three.
Okay, that's easy. The first 10 years of my career was very high level sales training, helping clients close deals of $100 million or larger. Everything I teach is based on 2 sales books. I mean, I've read tons of them, and I have friends that are great at this. But the first one is Spin Selling, SPIN Selling by Neil Rackham. And then the other one is Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play by Mahan Khalsa, who was with Franklin Covey. You also had, oh, wow, I'm highly visual. On yours was one of the top ones. It's a red book with
Ultimate Sales Machine.
On it. What?
Ultimate Sales Machine, Chet Holmes.
Yep, that's a great book too. But if anytime someone is going in sales, I read Spend and read Let's Get Real. And that is the foundation of consultative sales to me.
Okay. Brilliant. How about business, overall business books?
There's a couple that, one that just came out. I'm a pretty big fan of Jim Collins. He's done Good to Great and a few other ones. He's got a new one out called BE 2.0, and I think it's Business Entrepreneurship 2.0. And it's basically an overview of all of his books put together of just the key points. Sort of like the giant cliff notes of everything Jim Collins has ever written. That is an excellent book to give you a good start. Scaling Up by Vern Harnish is a great book. Traction is a great book. Both of those are about basically execution of your plan. I could go on and on and on. I love True North by Bill George, which is leadership in business. That's a few. I could give you about 25 more.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, if later on I'll give my website address. I have a little button on mine, resources, and on there you can download the top 65 business books I've ever read. A list of those.
Okay, excellent. And that's a free resource. Go to the site.
Everything I have on my website is free.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that.
Of course.
I just thought of another category: biographies. Top maybe 3 to 5 biographies.
Oh, well, everything about Teddy Roosevelt. I loved it. But I was I was having a conversation with a friend the other day about best biographies we read. John J. Audubon. It's often the thing, but it's a really interesting story about how he got excited about learning about birds, painting them. But the part that I thought was interesting is he actually went to Europe multiple times to sell his artwork before he had created it. He said, I'm going to go back and make these prints. I'm only selling 100 of them in the world. And he would go to the wealthiest people in America and Europe and make all the money he needed to then go back and do the expeditions to shoot the birds and paint them and create, all that stuff. So I thought it was neat that he was going back and forth across the world, back when it was on ships, to sell stuff that didn't exist yet. Just a neat story.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. It sounds like another good one. 2 more good ones. Marketing.
Seth Godin does great stuff on marketing. His book, I believe it's called This Is Marketing, is probably one of the best I've ever read. What else on marketing? You want to look at something about differentiation. I can't think of it. I can't think of another one right now off the top of my head. Seth Godin writes really good stuff. That's the only one that comes to mind right now. You almost stumped me there.
Okay. It's tough. It's tough. Practical marketing books, there's not, a ton of, there's great books out there, but ones that you could just say, here, read this, this is marketing, or, anything by Seth Godin, Purple Cow, or.
Purple Cow's a good one. Some of his stuff's awesome. Some of it, not so much in my opinion. Well, I owned a marketing firm for 9 years. So I've got an entire bookcase of marketing stuff out there. but it's hard to pick one out that just I went, wow, this changes the way I think about marketing. The key thing to marketing to me is understanding who you're selling to, what they want to buy, and then differentiating your product in a way that it stands out from your competition. Actually, I'll give you my formula for strategy real quickly now. It is a good strategy is based on value differentiation multiplied by disciplined execution. And there's 4 things that meet those criteria. To win in the marketplace, you have to bring something that is unique and compelling, number 1. Number 2, that your target market values very highly, happy to pay any reasonable price for it, $5, $50,000, $5 million. That is difficult, if not impossible to copy, and that you can consistently deliver with excellence. If you can create a strategy that meets those 4, unique and compelling, target market, happy to pay for it, difficult, if not impossible to copy, you can consistently deliver with excellence, you have a strategy and a marketing platform that is extremely hard to beat. That's a winning combination in the marketplace.
And that applies to any type of business of any size. I mean, that's really $1 billion formula.
It pretty much is. And here's what I'll tell you. I mean, I challenge when I teach marketing and stuff like that. My client, very rarely can someone get something that meets all 4 criteria. About 10% of the time, people could come up with something that truly, truly does stand out. But that one of difficult, if not impossible to copy, is exceedingly challenging.
Okay. I'll be thinking about that one hard. That's interesting. I mean, that whole formula is gold. Again, it's awesomely simple. I mean, everything you do.
Well, it took me 30 years to develop it and get it down to 1 sentence.
And this is the beauty of mentorship and listening to an expert like yourself, who's best in class. This is the beauty of it, that, 30 years, can be shrunk down when you have a great mentor like yourself. And when you're listening to an expert, you can fold time, you can shrink time down, and you can stand on the shoulders of a giant like yourself and build from there. Again,
you're really too kind. Stop complimenting me.
There might be more. I can't make any promises.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. We covered all the books, and I appreciate that. You talk about, in terms of, and this is a mindset / habit, the 3 most important life lessons. And I've heard you talk about that you've given in terms of, what you focus on and who you focus, ask for help. And I'll let you'll say it much better than me. And these are great mindsets and habits. Would you mind explaining those lessons?
Sure. And it's really fascinating. I failed out of college on the first try, got kicked out of the university in Miami, Florida, had to restart college. I tried to apply to the University of Florida, where they literally laughed at me. And then I went to a small community college in Gainesville, Florida, where I live now. And a professor said, are the 3 things it takes to be successful in college. And they apply in life. Number 1, he said, read the books. At least in college, 99% of the answers are in the books. You and we just discussed it. I know that all of the answers aren't in the books now, but the information to get me to the answer is in the books, audiobooks, YouTube videos, boom. So read the books. Number 2, he said, ask for help. Ask everybody in sight for help, the teachers, the TAs, the other students. A lot of people think it's weak to ask for help. It shows vulnerability, or I don't know what I'm doing. Well, I am vulnerable and don't know what I'm doing, so I need help. Here's what I found out. If you ask a lot of people for help, you get a ton of help, and things become really much, much, much easier. And the third one, he said, is start study groups. So I would stand up at the beginning of my class every year, each of my classes, and go, hi, I'm John. I really want to do well in this class. I'm going to have a study group. We're going to go Tuesday and Thursday nights from 7 to 10. Anyone's welcome to be in the study group, as long as you have a 3.6 GPA or higher. And I started out with a group of about 20, 15, 12, 10, and it got down to 6 of us that went to class together, studied together. We all had the same major. I won't drag you through it, but I eventually did get invited or accepted to the University of Florida. I graduated in the top 4 in the United States in my major and became the CEO of one of the Rockefeller Foundations when I was 26. Just from those 3 ideas: read the book, ask for help. And the study group is basically a mastermind group. I've still got one. I said 59. When I started, I had a mastermind group for CEOs under the age of 30. Then it was under the age of 40. And then I stopped putting a number on it and just said mastermind group. And I've still got one today of about 17 CEOs that about every 45 days we get together. We assign books, we assign reading, we teach each other, we bring in guest speakers. Now, here's the interesting thing to tie that whole story up. The teacher that taught me that when I was in a junior community college 33 years ago is the guy I had breakfast with this morning. That's a mentor. He's like a father to me. And actually, I wished him a happy Father's Day today. So that's how long the relationship has lasted and how much he's given to my life.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
33 years later, we're still having breakfast.
I see. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
Okay. That again segues into my next question. Mindsets, most common mindsets in your most successful CEOs that you work with.
They're driven in a positive way to succeed. And they're very strategic. They work hard at their craft. They want to be good. They want to take care of that would be the other one. They want to take care of their people. They don't do it for money. They do it to support and help their people in their community. And by default, because they're driven to be really good at what they do, they hire great people, they take great care of them. The finances are usually pretty darn good.
Have you had any exceptions to that where the finances were not good?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, I've
had
some that wasn't exponential growth where they weren't just year after year, 20% growth. I've had some that the growth has been very, very slow. They're in tough industries. But no, I don't have a single CEO I've ever worked with that focuses on hiring great people, setting a standard of excellence, understanding their market, and being strategic that's ever not been successful at some level. I have a great quote I love. The customer's experience will never exceed the employee's experience. Hire great people, take fantastic care of them, have a great strategy, give them the resources they need, then get out of their way and let them go make the company successful.
The reason I asked is because I can't think of a company. If you do those three things, I can't think of a CEO or company that's not successful.
Nor can I. Again, maybe they're not making a gazillion dollars a month, but they're steady, they're strong, they're profitable, and they have a good growth rate for their industry.
How about habits, daily habits? For example, reading, maybe time blocking their most important tasks, or other habits that you see in these most successful CEOs, the common daily habits.
They do set aside time every day for thinking, reading, and thinking. That's why I said they're very strategic. It's because they spit the two key ideas around being a strategic thinker, actually three. You can't be strategic if you're not studying a lot, if you don't have a solid base of business acumen and keeping up on your market, your competition, what consumer demands are. Number two, then you need to take that and combine it with your experience, your 10, 15, 20 years in the industry. And then level three, I'm going into 5 levels of strategic thinking, is pattern recognition. And that's the time where the CEO sits back and says, I've learned all this new information. Here's all the experience I have. What are the things that I understand, the pattern that nobody else sees? Once they can identify that flash of insight, then it's about building the strategy and, most importantly, executing the strategy.
Okay. In terms of time management, any tips that you see the best of the best practice? I mean, I'm sure you practice them as well. Best of the best time management tips that you see the highest performers, CEOs, and just performers in general.
Yeah, they only do what they do really, really well and delegate as much as possible away. They don't have their hands in everything. So they know where they add unique value in the organization, and they focus there, and they step away from anything they're not really good at. And that's why you hire great people and take great care of them. So number one is they don't spend time on stuff they're not good at. Number two, they protect their time very, very carefully. And that might be blocking time to go walk around the office and chat with people. They don't sit in meetings they don't need to be in. They don't sit in a meeting longer than they need to be in the meeting. And they also are great. This is Warren Buffett says this, they're great at saying no. No to things that don't add value, that won't help them, that doesn't move them towards the vision of the company or their own vision of their life. Anything that doesn't align with their values, I'm great at, I love little quotes. Walt Disney, when values are clear, decisions are easy. That works for a company and an individual. So because they're clear on their strategy, their values, where they want to go, they're very disciplined about saying, no, not going to do that, not going to go into that market, not going to work with that company, which also frees up a tremendous amount of time.
Keys to saying no. How can someone become better at saying no? Become a black belt at saying no?
The first one is values. If you've got to have really clear personal core values that you believe in, then it's very easy to say no to anything that doesn't align with them. Again, you can make even the most difficult decisions in your life quite easily if you just compare them against your values and the vision you have of your life. Another way to say no is well, I'll give you this. I get asked to be on boards of directors of charities and things like that a lot. And I have developed an answer that says, I really appreciate, and this is all true, I really appreciate you asking me to be on your board. You have an excellent organization. However, I've made a commitment in my life that I will only serve on one board at a time, so I can give it all my focus, all my energy, all the money I can raise. And because of that, I'm going to say no to you. And because if I said yes to you, I'd be saying no to my commitment and my family and what I said I value. Most people go, could you write that down? I'd like to use that myself. So it's saying no, saying yes to someone that isn't a good use of your time, energy, effort, resources, is saying no to your success, no to your family, no to your company, no to your friends. I don't want to say no to the things that are important. So I have to say no to the things that are not quite as valuable. And it takes courage sometimes, but it's a skill you have to learn. And in business, being able to walk away from something that looks exciting or interesting, but really doesn't align with your vision and strategy. Even if you've got a big sunk cost, it's better to walk away and say no and focus your limited resources and time on things that will move you in the direction of the vision of your company or your life.
For anyone listening, this will be a great part to rewind again. Everything John just said about time management, time mastery, saying no will be life-changing both personally and professionally when you apply it. When you apply those mindsets and those habits that John talked about and the tactics, these will be life-changing. You know,
when I coach a CEO about time management, one of the first things, or any executive or anybody, I say just track your time for a week. Where you spend every 30 minutes, take a minute, write it down, take a minute. And what most people find out, especially executives at work, 50% of the time, 30% of the time, they're doing things they should not be doing. They're wasting time. They're in the wrong meeting. They're not adding value. I've never had a CEO or an executive come back and say, oh no, I'm spending all my time perfectly. Most of them come back and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much time I waste. And they free up big chunks. The key then is to fill those chunks in, not with just more busy work, but with things that are really highly value add.
Okay. And as you said, this can be applied to a CEO or in someone's personal life as well to get their time back. All of it.
Personal life, college student, any level in a business. Yeah, you just look at your own life and say, how many hours a week do I spend on Facebook or whatever it might be? Let me be disciplined enough. And we talked about excellence. Years ago, IBM hired me to give a speech to about 1,000 of their people. And they asked me to talk about the essence of excellence. And I got it down to, and I studied it, called people and talked to CEOs and college presidents. I won't go into it. Got it down to 3 words: focus, discipline, action. You've got to focus intently on your values, on your vision, on the strategy, whatever it might be. But the life you want to create, the business you want to create, you got to be exceedingly focused on that. You have to have the discipline to actually do the stuff you need to do, not just talk about it, write it down. I should say no to this, but discipline to focus on the things and take action on them, which is the last one, action. The amount of action you apply determines the amount of results you get. Little bit of focus, not quite sure what you want to accomplish, but you have little discipline, you don't do it, or you apply very little action, the outcome is mediocrity. And when you start accepting mediocrity in your life, you become a magnet for mediocrity.
Well, that answered, my next question. Define excellence. It was, you are the best in the biz for a reason. We have two key variables in being best in class. One is excellence, and one is service. Excellence in terms of how you do everything or how you do anything is how you do everything. Being brilliant at the basics, paying attention to the details, taking action, and service. We talk about being kind and being useful are two variables. What is your definition? You defined excellence there. What's your definition of service? How do you define service?
Well, I would look at it at two levels. I would look at it on a personal level, which would be kindness, generosity, being grateful, and having an abundance mentality. As I think it's Zig Ziglar said, if you just help enough other people get what they want, you'll get everything you want. I look at my life as being of service to other people, whether it's business or personal life or someone that waits on me at a restaurant. When people thank me for doing something for them, I almost always say the same thing. It's my honor. It's my pleasure. And it truly is an honor to be of service to others. From a business standpoint, I don't think you define service. I think your customer defines what service is. This is the level I want. This is where you're useful. This is where you add value. These are my expectations. I think a lot of companies think they deliver great customer service, but if you went and talked to their customer, they may not agree. So I'm a huge fan of going and asking your customer, what are the three, here's a question I love to ask them to a customer. Why specifically do you do business with us? What are the top 3 or 4 reasons? Go out and ask a whole bunch of your customers that question, especially your target customers, the one you want more of. A pattern will emerge, going back to strategic thinking. That pattern is your marketing platform. That pattern is your unique selling proposition. And that pattern is where you need to focus on being of service, delivering great service. And again, it's about generosity, abundance mentality, kindness, respect, dignity. But it's also, in my opinion, the only critic whose opinion counts is the customer. At some level, they define what service is to them. Is that fair?
Ooh. Well, I could see how that applies to everything as well. I mean, you could apply that to personal life and professional life. That definition of service: listening, asking, meeting people where they are. Everything you said there on service. Again, anyone who's listening to this, if you rewind it, listen to it from a business perspective, but also listen to it from a way of living your life. Mm-hmm. Right? Both those answers, excellence and service. I mean, you could apply this to business, of course. Also apply it personally. I mean,
I do that with my wife when I check in, but when we first started dating and stuff, I asked her, what makes you feel loved? What are the things I can do to show you that I truly love you? Some people, not my wife per se, like presents, bring me some flowers, bring me this, take me out to a nice dinner. Other people, I've had women say, all right, that means you're cheating on me, constantly giving me presents. It must be doing something wrong. I have other people say, I just need a hug. I just need you to tell me you love me and or listen to me or be patient with me. So it's hard to show someone you love them if you show them in a way that doesn't mean love to them. And we can go 100 words: fairness, generosity, love, caring, whatever it might be. If I don't know the other person's definition, it's very hard for me to give them service in the way that is the most meaningful to them.
Thank you for expanding on that.
My pleasure.
And applying it directly to a personal relationship as well as professional. That's about as good as it gets in terms of definitions of excellence and service. One of my favorite concepts, and then maybe we can go into our 10 rapid fire questions, which we can do quickly. Something I love that you talked about were the 4 P's of excellence. I'm sorry, 4 P's of expertise.
Yep.
Right. Would you be able to talk about those for a minute? Because that ties right into mindsets and habits.
Sure,
I think it's such a brilliant concept as you describe it.
Well, as you have, I've spent a long part of my career studying expertise, experts, best in the world. Years ago, I read a book called The Cambridge Handbook of Expertise and Expert Performance, a 978-page book written by experts about how to become an expert. I'll save you the reading. I boil it down to the 4 Ps. And I've since worked with a couple of people that focus on teaching excellence. They said, this seems dead on. And it's not me per se, it's my studying. But first P is passion. It just stands to reason. It's hard to become among the best in the world, top 1%, if you're not passionate about what you do. The next P is persistence. Malcolm Gladwell's work, 10 years or 10,000 hours. You've got to stick at it for a while. The third P then is practice during all that time. but it's a special kind of practice called deliberate practice. And deliberate practice says you have a coach, a mentor, a colleague, somebody constantly pushing you to get better. Everybody uses this example, but the best athletes in the world, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, on and on, they all had coaches. They all had people that assisted them. Did Tiger Woods' coach play golf better than him? Absolutely not. But he or she could point things out, so you need someone pushing you and helping you, which leads to the fourth and final P, which we go back to strategy, is pattern recognition. When you become, I was talking about this, I'm now coaching the executive team at the Tampa Bay Lightning. The hockey team out of Florida that's won 2 Stanley Cups, was in the playoffs this year. We were talking about when you become a really good athlete, you see the game a different way. World-class Stanley Cup hockey players don't just they see the entire ice, the entire rink. They see the puck. They know where the puck's going. They know the puck's going to be most often. They understand that game at a level that average people don't. It's how chess players see patterns. They don't see pieces and board, place spaces on the board. They see a clear pattern, and they understand the patterns that can go away from that pattern. So it's passion, persistence, deliberate practice, pattern recognition.
And again, you can apply this to any profession, any career that you want to be an expert on, that you want to be best in class. Apply it to anything. Apply it to parenthood.
Yes.
Apply it to any type of relationship. And this is what I love. When you're listening to an expert, a real master, what they'll teach, like someone like yourself, you'll teach the mental models. You'll make the complex simple. It's fundamentals. It's foundational things that you can apply. It's like a Swiss Army knife that you can apply to so many things personally and professionally. So thank you for that. That's such a golden concept. Is it okay if we go through the 10 rapid fire questions? Do you have enough time
I'll
for
be
that?
rapid.
Okay. Excellent. Love it. I will be as well. Question one, what is one big hardship that you overcame in life, personally or professionally, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
No, I don't mind at all. It's an easy one. In 1992, I lived in Miami, Florida, on the coast when Hurricane Andrew went through. And I lost everything I owned in the world, everything. I escaped in my truck with a bottle of one of those big bottles of water from my office and a little bit of food. And I ended up living in my truck for a couple of months, then in an abandoned apartment with a giant hole in the roof. I won't drag you through the whole story, but here's what I learned. It's just stuff. That when everything I had, and I had insurance, luckily, but everything I owned was taken away, I realized I don't need a lot of that back. So I have very little attachment to material things. If my house burned down today, as long as my wife and our dogs are okay, it really wouldn't bother me in the least. I have insurance. I'd go get a hotel and we'd rebuild. It's just a house. So that setback of incredibly challenging circumstances for 6 or 8 months completely changed the way I look at material possessions in my life.
Thank you for sharing that one. A lot of great lessons from that we can all take away in terms of dealing with setbacks, and major setbacks. 3 people you looked up to and learned from. It could be people in your life or people that you studied from afar.
First one would be the gentleman I had breakfast with this morning, Roger Strickland. Been my mentor for 33 years. Major impact on my life. Number 2 would be a gentleman named Charlie Owen, who was, when I was put in charge of running one of the Rockefeller foundations, he was Mr. Rockefeller's right-hand man. He's one of the people that got me reading a lot. He would come in every Monday and put a business book on my desk, and he would say, Friday, you're going to make a book report. And we'd go to lunch, and he would grill me, just question. I'd answer it, and then he'd say, all right, what are your 3 biggest takeaways? What are the 3 things you're going to do as a result of reading that book? Which was a major lesson. You don't read the book to read it. You read the book to figure out how to apply it. So I'd tell him 3 things. He'd write them down and say, you will now be held accountable for that in your job. And for 6 years, every Monday I got a book. Every Friday I gave a report. And every Monday I had 3 things that I had to now be accountable for in my position. Then the other one, strangely enough, would be Tom Peters. When I first started out in business, the very first major business book I read was In Search of Excellence. And it had a huge impact on me. And I followed Tom for years and years and years. And we've since connected. And when I met him once on an airplane years ago, and he asked me what I did, and I said, I do stuff that's close to what you do. And he said, well, what's your goal? I said, to catch up with you. And he sort of chuckled. 5 years ago, when I was number 8 in the world, he was getting his Lifetime Achievement Award and sitting at the same table with me. So, and he laughed and went, I remember you. And he sent me a hand-signed book of one of his first leather-bound editions. And it says, congratulations, you caught me, Tom Peters. So he had a huge impact on my early business career.
Okay. On that third example, in terms of Tom Peters, it's, for anyone listening to myself, just find that person that you respect and admire their success and set your aim high and go after it and believe in yourself, like you said earlier, and just, have that someone to focus on.
Yeah. When I did that, what I did is I went to school on Tom Peters. I studied everything he'd done in his career, where he went to school, what his degree in, when he was in the military, what did he do there, when he worked at the White House. And I everything I could learn about him. And I created a checklist. And I said, if I just check all the things off this list, there's a good chance I'll catch Tom Peters. So that's what I did for 15 years. I just kept checking stuff off that list, work another 2 or 3 years, check another thing off the list. So why reinvent the wheel? I figured if this was what made him number 1 in the world, if I did most of that work, I would probably be someplace close.
Wow. I've never heard someone put it that way. Really reverse engineer the process of modeling and studying. Oh, that's just, that's powerful. Okay. Thank you for that. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would you choose? One person that you admire the most, alive or passed on, any historical figure?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Why Leo?
Polymath. Science, medicine, art. I'd love to know how somebody that is truly world-class in all those different areas. I would add Marcus Aurelius or Socrates or something, but somebody that would just be fun to know how his brain works would be Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay. Favorite quote or quotes? If you have one that stands out, or whatever you want to share.
TED Talk I did, you mentioned a little bit, you become what you focus on, and similar to the people you surround yourself with. Whatever you think about, whatever you read, you study, you learn, whatever you fill your mind with, and whoever you choose to spend your time with directly determines what your life will look like a decade from now. Most important thing I've ever learned in my life.
Okay. An inspiring or educational documentary or movie or TV show. A movie, TV show, or documentary that inspires you or might inspire the listeners.
I'm laughing because I don't watch TV or movies.
Okay.
I literally could not think of anything. You sent me a few questions to look at. I looked at that one and said, I don't watch movies or TV, or if I do, I'm going to watch some action thing for a little while. But I literally can't answer that question because I've watched, well, let's go back. There is thing, I used to take the master class, that series where top people in the world, Martin Scorsese, he talked about how he approached his craft of filmmaking, and I was blown away by his thought process. I also watched Ron Howard. Now that you mention it, that whole thing, Masterclass, that series, I watched a bunch of them. And then I'll also say another thing called The Chef's Table. It was about the top chefs in the world. And again, to see how they truly are excellent. They're the best in the world, and looking at how they approach their craft. And that's the way I see it. It's not a job. It's a calling. It's a craft. Scorsese and Chef's Table, absolutely life-changing. So there, I did watch something.
Excellent. And they're both on, they're both on mastery. They're about mastery and the 4 P's of expertise and, you know, what it takes to get there in any profession, whether it's filmmaking or being a chef.
And I'm the only guy that cries watching those things because I'm just like, this is so cool. This person is amazing. So there you go. I had to think a little bit, but there's your answer.
Oh, great answers. Excellent answers. Thank you for that. Proudest accomplishment.
That almost everybody at a senior level that's worked for me has gone on to start their own company or become the CEO of a large company. Okay. That means I pick great people. They learn as much as they can from me and the rest of our team, and then go off and start a business. Or I've got a couple that are CEOs of very large companies.
Okay. That's a great one. Oh, that's a great one because that's a gift. I mean, they just, it's life-changing to be able to accomplish that. And Okay. One piece of advice you'd give to someone starting out in your career?
Say yes. Say yes to new projects, yes to traveling. When I was at the foundation, they said, we need somebody to fly to Costa Rica to do this. I'm like, I'll go. I'll try that. We need someone to sit in on negotiation. I'll go. I'll try that. Did I make mistakes? Yeah, but I learned so much. So at that age, constantly learning, reading and stuff was obviously critical, but just trying new things, saying yes to projects, saying yes to opportunities, and going out and learning by doing.
Mm. And that's 100% true in my personal experience, just what you said there. And my next question would be, when do you know when to say no? Because you have to say yes.
Then,
well,
but it didn't. Sorry, say again.
I guess saying yes in the beginning is so important. It was so important to me to say yes to as much as I could. And when do you get to that point where you start saying no?
Well, let me clarify. I said yes to stuff that I knew was going to be good for my career. I'm going to learn how to negotiate better. I'm going to learn how to negotiate with foreign governments. I'm going to go and, learn this, learn that. I get to go to a new country, meet new people. So I always measured it as, is this useful to me? I said no, again, when it didn't match my values or the vision I had for my life, or when it wasn't fun. Like I've walked away from parts of my business in the last 10 years. I used to teach negotiations. One day it wasn't fun. And I remember walking through the Charlotte airport, just finishing teaching a class on negotiations, sitting down and crying. And I called my wife, who's my business partner. I said, I never want to teach that class again. She's like, but it's great. You're really good. I'm like, I don't care. It wasn't fun. And if it isn't something that's fun and exciting and I'm looking forward to, I don't want to do it anymore. So that was another big thing of, if it ain't fun, I'm not going to waste part of my life on it.
Okay. And that ties into the passion, the first P. Okay. Okay. Understood. Okay. Very useful distinctions there. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Take better care of your body. I have beat myself up. I've gained a ton of weight. I'm down 97 pounds from where I was, but I've got so many broken bones and stuff. I would have placed health at a much, much higher level when I was younger. Actually, my core values are honesty, health, love, laughter, learning, and contribution. Health was not on that list for a long time. I was extremely healthy, fit, played sports, all that stuff. And then as I got older, more injuries, more this, that, and the other, I look back and go, should have put that as a higher priority, which I now have it as my number 2 priority.
Okay. Okay. Anything we didn't cover today that you'd like to talk about?
I think one of the other things that's important is the importance of friendships. That, now that we live in a world where there's a lot of Zoom and this, that, and the other, it's hard, personal connection, genuine connection, spending time with people. They've done all kinds of Harvard research and everything, that the people at the end of their life that are the happiest are the ones that have had the strongest personal connections. So success and all that stuff is nice, but if you don't care, if you don't have people that care about you and people you care about deeply, it's kind of hollow. It really doesn't mean much to be among the best in the world if there's no one to share it with and no one who cares. So, and that's something I learned later in life. I didn't understand that until, like I said, I'm almost 60. Probably took me till I was 45 or 50 till I really went, this is super important. I need to make it a higher priority.
Okay. Boy, those last 2 answers, I mean, in terms of health and in terms of relationships, a lot to think about there and to apply as well, personally and professionally, especially personally. Where can people find you, to learn more about what you do, to any services you offer? You're awesomely simple. Definitely read that. Anybody listening, if you're in business or in any leadership position at all, that's a must read to me. It's just a must read. And
that's very kind of you.
It really does. It does exactly what it says. It makes the complex simple. It's awesomely simple. Where can people find you, John? Sorry.
Well, I'm going to make a quick note. It's interesting. Wiley, who published that book, called me up last week and said, we'd really like to talk to you about writing another book. So I have a meeting with them tomorrow. Hopefully there'll be a follow-up, but it's easy to find me, John at johnspence.com, johnspence.com. And AJ, I do this all the time. If you have a question or something I didn't cover during this podcast, just reach out to me. My personal email is john@johnspence.com. I answer all my own emails. I get quite a few, so it might take me a few days to get back to you. But if there's a question that was left hanging or you want some advice on something, as I did for you, I'm always happy to help if I'm able. And one of my favorite phrases, and this would be another key to success: if I don't have the answer, I can find somebody who does.
Thank you for offering that. That's incredibly generous. You're very generous with your time. We went into overtime today, and maybe I can say this. One of my favorite quotes or concepts is masters make the complex simple. So I want to say thank you today, and thank you through Awesomely Simple, and thank you for being who you are, making the complex simple, personally, professionally, for us to understand and do. I appreciate you, John.
It's my honor. It's my pleasure.
Take care.
You too, AJ.